Alton Towers, today the UK's biggest theme park, offers thrilling rides, family fun and historic buildings. One attraction though that opened in 1980 transformed the park into a must-visit destination. Welcome to Expedition Alton Towers.
In Alton Towers you will find you can leave your cares behind. Here's a new world just for you. There's so much to see and do. It's the only place to be. Fun for all the family.
The park known as Alton Towers sits around a ruined building which gives the theme park its name, and its history goes back a very, very long time.
A stately home, once Europe's largest private house in a glorious wooded setting. It's in Staffordshire, right at the heart of England, just 40 miles north of Birmingham and perfectly placed between the M1 and the M6.
The site's earliest records indicate it was the location of an Iron Age hill fort as far back as the 8th century. In 700 AD it became a fortress for a Saxon king and passed through many owners over the years, including multiple knights. It was around the 1100s when a crusader was given the land for his work during the Holy Land Wars. Later again, it would find its way to the Talbot family, who originated from France. The first Earl of Shrewsbury, John Talbot, fought alongside Henry V for most of his life. The house itself was called Alverton Lodge, which is the ancient word for Alton. The estate would remain in the family as a summer residence for the Earl. When Charles Talbot became the 15th Earl of Shrewsbury, he took great interest in the estate. In 1801, he decided to extend the home and build out the gardens with a plan to spend more time at the beautiful location. Every year from 1802 to 1852, some form of work was being done on the estate. The lakes and pools you see at the resort today were dug by hand and thousands of trees were planted. The house was renamed to Alton Abbey around 1811, even though it was not a real abbey. When Charles died in 1827, his nephew John shared his vision for the estate and would go on to complete the work.
The old woman screamed a curse for every branch of the old oak tree that fell. A member of the Earl's family would die.
The real chaining of the chained oak tree, as seen in Hex, is believed to have been between 1821 to 1840, and either Charles or John are believed to have been the Earl who did it. Whether they did it to preserve the beautiful tree or the legend is true, today it still remains a mystery. In 1832, the name was again changed from Alton Abbey to Alton Towers. Alton Towers became the main residence of the Earls family until John passed away in 1852 when it went to his cousin Bertram. When he died though, 4 years later at the age of 24, all work on the house ended and there was no direct heir to the estate. Legal battles began over who had the rights to the estate, which was won by Henry Talbot, the 18th Earl. The items inside though were not included and were auctioned off. The 18th Earl only lived at the estate when their main home was being rebuilt due to a fire. After this, the 19th Earl decided to open the grounds to the public to fund repairs to the house which were badly needed in 1860. By doing so, he raised more than enough for the work required. This inspired the 20th Earl, Charles Henry Talbot, to develop the estate as a tourist attraction in the early 1890s. Along with the already popular gardens, he organised fetes, fireworks and illumination displays, exhibits of torture devices and balloon festivals at the site, which as many as 30,000 people visited. When the Earl and his wife separated in 1896, he left his wife to live in the estate, refusing though to further pay for the upkeep of the building. It fell into disrepair and began to decay until the estate was auctioned off. A group of local businessmen purchased the estate, with the main shareholder being an estate agent from Uttoxeter. They formed Alton Towers Limited and the gardens were restored. Once again, the items inside were auctioned off, but the building and gardens remained open to the public, with the addition of cafes and restrooms. It was extremely popular during the 20s and 30s.
You will now hear a statement by the Prime Minister.
This country is at war with Germany.
When World War II broke out, the building was requisitioned as an officer cadet training camp and would remain under the control of the War Office until 1951. It is mostly rumoured that the use during the war was what damaged the building beyond repair. But even before that, the period between the two wars, the majority shareholders had sold the wood and plaster fixtures from the interior and boarded most of the place up. This led to water damage to rot the inside of this once beautiful building. After the war, these issues only got worse.
Alton Towers was once the home of the 15th Earl of Shrewsbury, who built a great rambling mansion of turrets and towers and hired armies of gardeners to landscape the surrounds, early in the last century. But no one lives here now, and it's one of the North Midlands' most popular and beautiful playgrounds.
While most of the house remained abandoned, they did open a tea room in the Grand Banquet Hall. Along with this, the addition of travelling funfair rides were found outside. Shortly after, an indoor model railway was added inside the entrance of the building. Claimed as the largest in the world, it required an extra charge to be seen. During the 1960s and the 1970s, attractions began to be added such as a boating lake, chairlift, and a fair behind the main house. Concrete floors were added into the house so that the public could enter, and Alton Towers still remain popular.
The average visitor spends 6 hours in the park, and enjoying yourself is hungry work. That's why Alton Towers has a range of restaurants and kiosks to cater for every taste. If you want to take your time and splash out a bit, there's the Swiss Cottage restaurant, which overlooks the gardens.
Millionaire property developer John Brew married the daughter of majority shareholder Dennis Bagshaw in 1973 and bought out the controlling stake in Alton Towers. While during the late 70s, smaller attractions would be added to keep guests to the estate entertained, it would be 1980 that would drastically begin the transformation to the Alton Towers of today.
You won't believe how much fun you can pack into a day at
John Broome and the park's executives had a new ambition, a fully fledged theme park, and the inspiration for this came from, of course, Disney. They wanted to take Alton Towers into the Disney League, as they put it. The next few years would see the introduction of Talbot Street, Fantasy World, and Tower Street, clearly inspired by Main Street USA of Disney, but it would be the addition of one attraction that would really put Alton Towers on the map in the UK, Corkscrew.
Please just let me get out of here!
Vekoma, founded in 1926, began as a manufacturer of mining and farm equipment. In the late 1970s, they entered into a partnership with Arrow Development. In exchange for purchasing Arrow rolling stock for rides, Vekoma would have access to Arrow's designs, leading them to develop their own version of the Arrow track. 1979 saw the first Vekoma Corkscrew with bay and curve, an adaptation of the Arrow Corkscrew. This version, unlike the Arrow one, was designed to be portable. While the Corkscrew at Alton Towers was not the first one to be built, it was the first full-circuit double inversion coaster in the UK. The new ride arrived at Alton Towers in 68 containers. Originally planned to open in 1979, delays forced it to open the following year on April 4th, 1980 to huge publicity, with around 30,000 people waiting to ride. The park's first roller coaster was an instant hit. Line wait times reached up to 5 to 6 hours for this new park attraction.
By contrast, if it's high excitement you're after, the ultimate in white knuckle rides are ready when you are. Like the famous Corkscrew in Festival Park, one of 5 main themed areas where thrill seekers are temporarily parted from their stomachs.
The ride itself cost £1.25 million to build in 1980 and featured 2 corkscrews, a 68-foot drop, and reached speeds of 40 miles per hour. The ride sparked new life into the UK amusement park industry and began to transform Alton Towers into a fully fledged theme park. This year also saw the shift from a pay-per-ride ticket system to a one-charge entry for all attractions. During the mid-90s, the original trains built by Arrow were replaced with trains from Vekoma. The 1 minute 30 long attraction sat unthemed in Talbot Centre and then Festival Park until Ugland opened in 1999.
The land where fun began is now open. Oakland at Alton Towers.
Not much was changed except it was repainted and the queue line was moved, as well as small theming elements were added around it. It was once again repainted for the opening of Rita, Queen of Speed in 2005. Corkscrew doubled the park's attendance from 500,000 in 1979 to over 1 million in 1980. After 28 years of thrilling riders, the roller coaster that put Alton Towers on the map had become rougher and rougher, and in 2008 Alton Towers confirmed that the Corkscrew was to be dismantled to make way for a brand new world's first attraction.
It's the end of an era at Alton Towers today. The Corkscrew, Europe's first double-loop roller coaster, bet you knew that, is being retired after thrilling the crowds for 28 years. In its time, it's carried over 43 million riders and travelled over 820,000 miles. Well, the park is now in its closed season, but has been opened especially today for thrill seekers to have one last ride.
The final day of operation was November 9th, 2008, after a special event honouring the ride. That brand new world's first ride would disappoint many, but that story is for another episode. The front train of the ride was sold on eBay for £7,200 and the rest of the train was sent to Hyde Park for the Big Loop roller coaster.
The ride has reached the end really of its natural shelf life. We want to do something dramatic in this space in a couple of years, and unfortunately when we've looked at all our plans and what we want to put here, it's meant that the Corkscrew's time has come to an end.
Corkscrew changed the fate of Alton Towers and the whole UK amusement park industry. Long before the addition of secret weapons, it was one of the most popular rides the park had ever built. The remains of the ride were scrapped, except for the two iconic Corkscrew inversions, which sit as a reminder today of Alton Towers' history at the entrance to the park. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Expedition Alton Towers. We still have many other attractions to look at on this expedition. Make sure to let me know in the comments below where you would like to see next. You can now get one of our brand new Expedition Alton Towers t-shirts for yourself, so check the link in the description to pick one up and be sure to share your pictures with us of you in the parks wearing one. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram for updates on upcoming expeditions, and a special thank you to our patrons for supporting the channel. We will see you next time.
That's not Barney's head. That's not Barney's head. That's Barney's head.